Welcome to the Everyday Carry Options Podcast. The goal of our show is to make everyday carry attainable for the everyday citizen. Today, we are talking about how to find a reputable firearms instructor. Today, I'm here with my co-host, Alex. My name is Matt. Alex, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. We got through a couple of technical difficulties getting the show running, but I think we're on a good start now.
Yeah, so. Cool. We had a really rocky start trying to get started today, but hey, we are finally well on our way here.
It was all my fault, don't worry.
I wasn't going to tell anybody, but hey.
I'll take it.
Our last show, we were in Grand Rapids at Holland Tactical Solutions with Will Holland and Aaron Lasung. We had a great time. They were awesome hosts having us come out. We really appreciate that. I want to, for you guys that are going to be listening to this on podcast, I'm really sorry. This show right now is live. I want to show real quickly what they did for me. Hopefully you guys can see that. They put serrations in the top of the slide, and then they milled out the pocket for a Trichicon RMR. It's a red dot. So, and then this fantastic burnt bronze Cerakote.
I love that burnt bronze.
I've got,
so nice.
Yeah, it looks really great. I have a lot of learning to do to get proficient with this, so I'm going to be getting with Phoenix Ammunition here down the road from me a ways. Get a couple thousand rounds and, get my learn on. So
go do some pew pew.
Yep, some pew pew and get out to the local range. So today we're talking about how to find a reputable instructor. How do you get into a class and know that the person who is, supposed to be imparting knowledge, how do you know that they're qualified to do that? Because there is no real, state certification. There's nothing, the NRA does I'm sorry?
There's no standard for instructors. They're just instructors. They can call themselves instructor and have zero experience.
Right. So how do you find out, who's a good instructor? How do you find out if what you're going to learn is conducive to your daily life? One of the things and the way I started out in for my first class was I just got on YouTube and I started trying to find if any of the instructors I wanted to go see, find out if they had anything they said publicly. Do they have a YouTube channel? Did they say anything that I thought, oh boy, that is off the deep end? What are their opinions? You know what I mean? How did you start your process, Alex?
I had a really weird process of getting into firearm instruction. When I took my first CPL class, it was horrible. It was a really bad experience. And so I wanted to find more because I didn't really know what I was doing. So I, went to the local indoor shooting range and just got a class from one of the local guys there, and which again was still not really all that great. And so I kind of started seeking instruction elsewhere. And at the time when I started looking around, I just went online and searched stuff and really couldn't find anything that I was after. I just was popping up. There was no real established place that you can go get training besides a few of the gun stores that have indoor ranges, which I wasn't really happy with that type of instruction. So what I ended up doing is actually finding some police officers that were retired that were at one point instructors for the police department. I started learning from them, and that's kind of where I got into it. And then somewhere along the lines, I found, I found a couple podcasts, and one of them was Practically Tactical, and that got me to finding MDFI and everybody else that's involved with that world. Kind of once you break the seal, you find out there's instructors out there.
Yeah, I had a very similar situation when I took a CPO class. Somebody opened up a book and started reading. They started at page 1, word 1, and ended last page, last punctuation point, and it was mind numbing. and it was horrible. It was not education. I mean, they could have just sent me home with the book and said, make sure you read this. You know, one of the reasons that when Alex talked to me about doing this podcast early last year, one of the reasons I agreed to it was this is a way for people who may want to come to one of my CPL classes or one of Alex's CPL classes to get a feel for what kind of person we are, what our teaching style, what it might be. You know, neither one of us have any military background, so it's not going to be do this because I said don't ask questions. You know, it won't be anything like that. And obviously, that was a terrible impersonation of somebody in service. But it's, you know, low pressure. You know, well, for what I teach, what Alex teaches, you know, it's we both know to stay in our own lanes. We don't get outside of what we should be teaching, and which is, for where I'm at right now, it's CPL classes, and I can teach a little bit extra to help, and I know Alex can too, but we stay inside that lane. But one of the things that I found was, if you can find anything, again, you know, YouTube, podcasts, or anything, any articles that somebody has written, you know, really listen to what it is they're saying. Read between the lines. You know, really, you know, pick apart what they have to say and think about, does this actually line up with my thoughts, my values, and why I want to be an responsibly armed citizen.
Hey, expound on that a little bit. You know, if you find an instructor that you're interested in, find them on Facebook and find them on Twitter and Instagram, and you know, watch them, check them out, see what they're saying, see what kind of comments they're making. You know, there's some instructors that are in the industry right now that I'm not sure really where they're going with their social media, but it's not a very pleasant direction. And in my experience, that's not anybody I want to deal with. You know, if they can't keep themselves in a respectable manner on their Facebook pages and their Instagram pages, then they're not going to be able to do that when they're instructing people as well. So check out their Instagrams and Facebooks and see what kind of comments they're making and how they're talking and how that's going to line up with how they teach. You know,
I agree with that, and I'm going to go a little further with that and say, it's not about whether they cuss or not. It's about what are their topics. I mean, we don't swear on this show specifically because we want people that we know who have kids to be able to put this show on and have no reservation. Oh, I see the mail lady's dropping something off for me. Sorry. So if my doorbell goes off, where was that? Oh yeah, we
swear.
Right. We specifically made the call to keep this a family-friendly show.
Yeah.
I don't think
in real life.
Right. Oh my. I don't think that. I always have found it curious that people get offended when they're talking about using a gun in self-defense and someone curses. That's not, the point of this show, but.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point.
Far from the most important thing.
It's not necessarily the language they're using; it's what they're saying. You know, how are they handling themselves? What are their reactions to situations? You know.
Go ahead, Alex. I have some noise to take care of. Hold on.
Oh, the joys of having children in the home when we are doing podcasts on live somewhere around there with their grandparents who are hanging out for the day. But yeah, so that's a really important aspect, is looking at something and going, okay, it's not about what they're saying, because face it, we all say things maybe not correctly all the time. It's more about how they're handling it, and that's a very important aspect of the situation. If you look at an instructor and they're handling bad PR really poorly, well, they're going to handle bad situations very poorly, and that's something that's going to translate into their teaching mechanism. Do they handle confrontation well? You can see that if you watch through somebody's Facebook page. You can go look at the comments. You can find out where these guys are frequenting and find out how they handle situations. And then, like I said, it's what Matt was saying. It's not about what they're saying. It's not the language they're using. It's the way that they're handling it. And I think that's a very big foreshadowing of how they're going to handle their instruction, how they're going to handle things in their classes as well.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
I'm back again from outer space. I should have changed the stupid locks. No?
Yeah.
All right.
So sorry I missed out on what you were saying there, Alex. Where did you finish up your thought on that? So
just,
if this is your first time listening to us, I'm very sorry.
It's okay. We're not always this frazzled.
No, this has been a challenging day getting everything going. New equipment and things being moved around and relocated. It's been fun.
There was my end.
All right. Something else that we had Jeff Bluvman on 2 weeks ago, a week and a half, whatever. And something I took from him that I absolutely agree with is, does the instructor operate in absolute yeses and nos or always never? The only always never type thing I can think of off the top of my head is, always keep your gun pointed in a safe direction until you're ready to shoot. Always keep your finger off the trigger, outside of the trigger guard, off the trigger until you have decided to shoot. Always know what your foreground and background of your target is, and always keep your guns locked up and unloaded unless they are in use. So, don't ever point a gun at something you're not willing to destroy or pay for. So it's, the 4 life safety rules. Other than that, there's not a lot of always never. You can't say you always hold your gun like this, because you can think of, with any critical thought, you can think of a reason, well, I can't hold my gun with 2 hands because I'm trying to drag a 4-year-old child around behind me, so we can get out of a bad situation or whatever. So do they work in a lot of absolutes?
Trek was talking about that. And I don't know if it was one of our podcasts that he was on, or if it was one of the other podcasts he's on, which he's on several. But he was saying that, if he walks by somebody in his class that's doing something that's abnormal or not usual, he asks them, why are you doing that? And is it working? It's working? Awesome. Do that. And I think that's important. That you can, there's a lot of ways that you can learn to do something. And if it's working well for you, and that's, you're putting rounds on target, then I think that's more important than that absolute of, well, you're not holding that gun like you're supposed to,
Right. I have people in class, quite often that I don't really like the way they're putting 2 hands on the gun or the way they have their arms. But if I ask them to try what I'm showing, and if that doesn't work for you after you try it for a little while, go back to what's working. There are some things that are a bad idea and are dangerous, in certain ways to hold a gun. And, that would be, if something is dangerous, that is a don't do. That is a, hey, please try to never do that because of danger.
That's sort of, for me, that is the teacup method, or you're putting your gun. And the reason we don't do that with semi-automatics is if you have a misfire, that magazine can slam down into your hand and cause more problems than you think.
Right.
So there's safety reasons to why maybe we suggest a different grip, but that's not necessarily, a reason to completely change a grip if it's working for you. There's not an absolute there.
Right. So something else is, again, going back to when you see these people on YouTube in a podcast, writing an article, or if you're able to sit in on one of their classes, a lot of times instructors may or may not allow that. It's case dependent. But judging by what an instructor says publicly, would you want them as a character witness? If you ever ended up in court, would you want them as a character witness in your defense? I can think of a couple of people that are big name instructors that, man, they've said some things publicly that they might be right, and I might even agree with them. But the fact they said something out loud that probably should have been kept inside, I don't dig that, man. Not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying that they're wrong for me.
That's a really eye-opening statement. If you're not willing to have them as a character witness, you know, if you're not willing to have them on a trial board with you for that, that kind of scares you a little bit when you have connection with it.
Yeah, I mean, it should, you know, take everything. When you're learning from somebody else, you have to take everything they put out into the world. You got to take that as part of, you know, the whole package. You know, I don't want to, I'm not going to throw out any names, but there's an instructor that is an absolute ding dong, and a lot of people know of. And he is literally known for being such a moron that, you know, okay, apply critical thought. This guy will pull out a knife and start slashing and stabbing at a piece of paper, and then start shooting at a piece of paper when his gun's not leveled yet, inside an indoor range where he's shooting through the paper and into the ceiling tiles. Probably not the guy you want to train with. But if you look at it from a critical thought standpoint, you'll see that if you are somebody that does not apply critical thought to anything, and you go with a lot of ego and a lot of emotion and a lot of bravado, you look at this with those, you know, through those eyes, you're going to miss out on a lot of this. I mean, the first thing that I think instructors especially need to do is put away the bravado, put away the ego, and realize that it's, you know, students are going to come into your classes and actually be able to teach you things. You should be grateful for that. You should be grateful for that. You know, don't discount what students can bring to the table, because as the instructor, you are not infallible. You can be wrong, and you need to be very well aware of that. But if your ego doesn't allow for that, then it's hard for you to grow as an instructor. So
I've had a gentleman in the class that got a CPL from me, and we were at the range doing the qualifications. And usually I kind of do some, you know, I teach him some drills, and I do a little bit extra than just the minimum for the NRA. And he kind of goes, you mind if I just shoot the qualification? I said, well, yeah, sure. I don't care. That's fine. So he walks up there, you know, with this old school 1911, shoots the qualification, and like, I kind of thought he missed. That's how tight his group was. I was like, whoa. And he goes, so I go sit back down. I said, yeah, sure. That sounds great. So, you know, later on after the class, I'm like, you know, first of all, how do you shoot that well? And apparently he was something special in the Army. And then I'm not sure what, he didn't really talk about it. He's an old guy. He's just like, yep, I did some cool stuff. That was about what I got from him. But
I asked him,
high
speed, low drag.
Yeah, that's kind of where it seemed like it was going. So I said, do you think you could give me a couple of lessons over the summer, you know, because you are obviously far better of a shot than I am. And he actually lives around the corner from me. So he's like, oh yeah, sure. So last summer I spent 2 or 3 times working with this guy, and yeah, he cleaned up some of my shooting, and just by observing what I was doing, you know, and then going, okay, try doing some of this. And that was nice. That was really cool. It was really neat learning from somebody who came to me as a student to learn. And, you know, I know CPL classes are essentially just earning a piece of paper, but, you know, that was kind of cool to be able to do that. And I think it's important as an instructor to realize that, like Matt said, you're not infallible, and you can learn from the people in your class.
Right. You know, I think the first thing I probably should have started this off with is, if you can call the school, call the instructor, whoever, find out if they do a medical briefing, like a medical safety briefing. What if there is a negligent discharge? What if something, you know, somebody gets hurt? Does the instructor or any of the cadre or his, you know, assistants, does anybody have medical training of any kind? And if they do, what kind? Is there a medical kit on standby? I mean, what's their plan? Do they have a plan? You know, that type of thing. If there is, you know, we've heard this from a couple of other instructors, Trek, you know, most namely that I can think of. But if there's no medical briefing at the beginning, then they are not prepared to help, save, or take care of you. And you should probably just pick up your gear, do an about face, and walk back to your vehicle. See if you can get a refund later. But, you know, odds are, nothing's going to happen, but I'm not willing to take that chance. I mean, even in just the most basic CPL class that I teach and Alex teaches, I do a safety briefing, and I know Alex does too. So
first thing that comes out of our mouths.
Yeah. Yep. It's important. And that's a part where it's, hey, no joking around. I need somebody that can help. If there's anybody that can help, I need somebody that can call 911, tell where we, there's a whole spiel, but
I love it when I have doctors in my class.
Right. Right.
Can anybody save anybody's life if they're bleeding? And usually, I've actually had quite a few classes that have had either EMS or doctors in them.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yep, we got this." I'm like, "Do you have your bag? You do? Go get it."
Sweet.
Because now we have two.
Yes. That's right. So yeah, make sure there's a medical briefing of some kind. Make sure that somebody there knows what they're doing in case somebody negligently puts a hole in something they were not supposed to.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that it does happen. It's not any fault, I think, of the instructor or the people around. Sometimes it just occurs. You hear about the shirt dangle getting caught in the trigger well and between the holster, and that's what caused the gun to discharge. And it was just something that happened, and that would be something I would consider with an instructor, is not necessarily has the instructor had an accident in their class, because I think at this point, maybe I'm wrong, but I think pretty much every instructor has any salt worth their name has had something happen in their class. I think it's important to look at how they dealt with it.
Right.
More than
how was that handled?
It's a human element that they can't control every human on their line. So it's not necessarily the instructor's fault that there was an accident. It's more that how did they handle that accident when it occurred? Did they have medical right there? Are they ready and prepared to deal with that immediately? And that would be important. And a lot of guys they put that stuff up on Facebook. I know there's several instructors that have no problem going like, "Hey, we had an accident. This is what happened. This is how we handled it." And they use it as a teaching mechanism more than they use it as a, try to hide it because they did something wrong.
Oh yeah. as soon as they try and hide that, it brings everything that they do, everything that they teach, everything that they say into question. Like, oh, cool, great. What else are you trying to hide? It puts an air of dishonesty on it. So as soon as something like that happens, the sooner you can get out ahead of it and say, "Here's what happened. Here's what how we handled it. This is the aftermath." So I mean, that's a great thing to do. Do you have anything for this, or do you want me to just keep going? Because I've got a bunch more.
I'm just interjecting when I see like I have a plan.
Okay.
I agree that medical is very important. You can, and that right off the bat should be the first thing talked about in a class, because no matter how we look at it, an accident can happen the moment you walk out of your car.
Right.
You could have one of those cool non-drop safe guns and you drop it out of the back of your truck and it goes off and shoots you in the leg and you're not even in the building yet. So that's something that, if they're not putting that safety out there pretty quickly, then I would be pretty concerned. If they start getting into their lessons before they start talking about medical, that would be a red flag for me. My safety bag when I have my classes is prominent. It's right there. It's the main focal point of that table. And when everybody walks in, I get them all settled down and calmed down and sitting. And I go, "Okay, we're going to talk about how I'm going to save your life." Is something screw. And,
da, 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 da.
I need a cape.
Right.
No, I really don't. But that's prominent. And I think that it's important to bring up that if they tell you that, "Well, I learned this because I watched a bunch of YouTube videos," I'm not saying that's better than nothing. But I would still be a little more cautious with that type of person. I've met instructors that, a couple of them that, "Well, I learned how to use tourniquets from YouTube videos and I know my medical from YouTube videos." That's not necessarily a bad thing. They're trying to do something. I'm saying this to point out a very important thing. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. You need to be prepared as well. And, it's a hard realization, but I'll say it in as blunt terms as possible. If you feel that you are empowered enough to carry a gun that can kill someone, you need to be empowered enough to carry a med kit to save someone's life. And so far in this industry, I see it's about 1 out of 50 that's carrying a med kit. You're going to use a med kit way before you're ever going to use your gun. I hope so. You know, for your sake, use that med kit long before you use a gun. Save somebody's life in a car accident or a slip and fall. You know, I've used a med kit several times for some crazy stuff, and I've never ever had to draw my gun once. So I'm saying that in the relative of go out and get trained yourself. Go find an instructor. Go take Red Cross. You know, find out if your place of employment has a first aid responder program and get involved with it. It's usually paid for. So get involved with being able to fix yourself as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Moving along with this a little bit. Something else you can do, super easy. Find out, like, you know, typically most of these people have a YouTube page, Instagram page of some kind. See if you can talk to past students. Get any kind of feedback you can, the positive and the negative. Now, if you don't hear anything at all negative, that might tell you the kind of crowd you're dealing with. You'd have to look at the people and think to yourself, are these intelligent people, or are they a lot of followers? Because that happens. You get a lot of that in these groups where they get really starstruck by these, you know, big name instructors, and people quit thinking for themselves, and everything is awesome, especially if it's the first and only class they've ever taken. It doesn't matter because they don't have a metric in which they can compare classes and points of instruction. So if it was their first and only class, it was the best class they've ever taken. That's exactly what they're going to tell you because it was the only class they've ever taken. And most of the time they don't know better that it was a garbage class. If it, you know, and it may not have been, but judging,
they're probably only basing that on their CPL class. And
right.
Honestly,
well, and anything's better than
that is not really the best thing in the world.
No, that is a glorified safety lesson and should be followed up with actual training classes.
Yes.
Let's see. What else? Does the instructor actually do demos on what they're asking you to be able to perform?
Yeah.
And if all they have are great ideas on what you should be able to do and they won't show that they can do it, next class. Yeah. Okay. There are some nationally known instructors that, you know, people, you can love them, hate them, be indifferent. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. But if they aren't willing to put themselves on the firing line and maybe flub around, maybe miss a shot, you know, God forbid that, you know, anyone realizes that they're human, then that's not the instructor for me personally. I mean, it may be for you, but not for me. They need to be able to demonstrate to me that they can do what they're saying they want you to do. And if they screw up and miss a shot, that doesn't mean that they're no good. It means that they're only no good if they can't tell you what happened. Like, oh, yeah, I pulled my trigger. I anticipated the shot. I dumped my front sight, or I didn't pick up my front sight. Whatever the situation or reason is, and it's not an excuse, it's what happened. They need to be able to show that they can do what they're instructing. You know,
using that as a teaching mechanism is important. You know, and I'm trying to think of. There was a video on YouTube about a month or two ago of a guy that had a I don't know what to call it, a negligent discharge. They were on the range and he had his weapon pointed down range, and the gun did not go off when it was supposed to. And I don't know, everybody that I remember reading about the video said there was actually an error in the gun that happened, like the hammer slipped or something like that. Regardless, what I thought was so important about that is the way the instructor handled it. The instructor did not use that as a time to lash out at the student. He used that as an opportunity to talk about the importance of the safety rules that they were following and how those worked in their favor because that happened. And I think that that's important in the instructor aspect, is that instructor using the time and the errors that occur as teaching mechanisms as opposed to reasons to possibly be mad at the student or to lash out at the student. And I've seen both ways in instructors. I've seen instructors that lash out at their students for not doing things that the way that they think they should be done, or missing shots, or, you know, why are you dumping your front sight, you know? So,
yeah. Is critical thought applied to what you're being taught, or is it just do this because I said so?
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of that too. Do this way. Well, why? Because I said so. There is a time that, hey, it's, you know, it's instruction time. Just please, you know, we're going through drills, but there definitely needs to be a time where they can explain why you're doing what you're doing. And it has to be, you know, you have to be able to apply critical thought to what's being taught. If this doesn't make sense in any aspect of your life, and it's a always do this, you know, 4 life safety rules, how's that conducive with carrying a gun in public?
Right.
Another thing that drives me crazy is we're regular private citizens, right? Never been in the service. I think taking classes from anybody that was in the service, that's fantastic. You know, there's a lot of guys that are, you know, former Rangers, SEALs, Delta operators, all kinds of, you know, Marine Corps, snipers, and whatever, right? All these great and amazing things.
Yeah.
But why are you taking? Yeah, oh, they absolutely know their stuff, and they're bad to the bone. They're bad to the bone dudes. Now, I'm not trying to take that away from them at all. But are you taking a class from them because you want to learn how to kick doors like a MARSOC guy or like a Ranger, or you want to, you know, it doesn't matter what it is. Are you taking training from them because you want to be like a Navy SEAL? Because you're not. Or are you taking training from a person who happens to be a former Navy SEAL or a former Ranger or whatever, and they are just really good at teaching basic firearm stuff, or maybe it's marksmanship, whatever? Are you taking the classes from these guys for the right reasons? Because you're not a Navy SEAL. I'm not. I mean, if you used to be a Navy SEAL, then cool. Take more training from Navy SEALs. But you know what I mean? Make sure that the training is conducive to your life. I mean, if you want to take fun classes, take fun classes. You know, there are guys out in, you know, in the middle of nowhere, Texas, that, you know, somebody was a former Ranger and he's got a rich brother, and you know, they do a helicopter class where you're shooting hogs from, you know, from a helicopter. And I stole that from James Price. I love James Price, so please, James, don't kill me over that. But that's absolutely true. You're not a door kicker. You're a regular dude. You're a regular lady. You have, you know, wife, husband, significant other, kids, whoever. You're not working in a group. You're not working in a team. You know, it's defensive, not offensive. It's a different world than what those guys learned in the service.
And are you handling what you already know well as well? I think a lot of people will jump. You know, they won't. And I respect the instructors that make sure you you know, they actually meet the qualification. You know, it's so often that, you know, it's like, oh, I'm just going to go do this class because I think it sounds cool, which I think is great. But are you able to handle the skill set that you already own? And I think that's important. Are you able to do what you're supposed to already be able to do? So, you know, meaning that, you know, can you defend, you know, can you draw from a holster? There's one I see gap in a lot. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm going to go out and take this, you know, door breaching class, but I can't draw from concealment. What?
Right, kind of thing.
You want to blow up doors, but you can't get your gun out? You know, that's kind of where it's important to know, like, what's the fundamental? Are you mastering those fundamentals? Then go take cool classes. You know, there's nothing wrong with going to take a door breach class, you know, as long as you understand that you're probably never going to breach a door. But it's fun. I mean, I wouldn't mind blowing a door off a hinge every once in a while. That sounds like a good time.
It sounds like a great time, but it's not, you know, it's not something I'm going to do in real life.
Yeah.
Not likely. I'm probably not going to be doing a lot of shooting in self-defense from a helicopter either, but it sounds like a great time. I'd do it. I mean, if they're like, hey, it's a $500, or I don't care if it's a $2,000 class, I get to go hang upside down from a helicopter or something and shoot stuff, that would be awesome.
That kind of sounds cool.
Right.
I keep trying to convince Trek to do a tactical flamethrower class.
Oh man, I'd be down. I'd be down. I mean,
it would be fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's just some things to think about, guys and gals, ladies and gents. Don't just go jump into the first class you see because somebody was they were a police officer for 25 years and they haven't taken training from anyone since they've been, retired. Things change. The way crime happens changes. Firearms change. If they're stuck, if you only this gun and this gun only, there's a difference between poking fun and just having a good time and saying, hey, if you don't carry a 1911 or you don't carry a revolver,
2000,
right? If you don't carry a Glock, then you're wrong. Blah blah blah. Well, everybody likes what they like for whatever reason they like what they like. Far be it from me or Alex to say that you have to carry what we carry. I don't care what you carry as long as you can shoot accurately what you carry and it's reliable.
And it's reliable. Trek said that really good. It doesn't matter what you're carrying as long as you are you've mastered the factor that that's a reliable firearm. And if you can't say that it's a reliable firearm, then maybe you shouldn't carry that gun. I see that a lot with my students. I really like this gun, but it jams every 5 or 6 rounds. And you're gonna put that in between you and a bad guy. So you've got 5 rounds before you've got to have a problem. Do you know how to handle the jams? So that just make sure that it's reliable. If it's not reliable, please go get one that is. I don't care what it is, just get one that is.
Right. And then if you don't know what that is, you cannot always rely that the person on the other side of the gun counter knows what they're talking about. I have found that it's very rare that someone on the opposite side of the gun counter actually is well informed and can speak with some authority on a certain type of gun for a certain, for a person. Typically what you find is someone who needed a job that knows how to sell things. And I've said this before, it might as well be a vacuum cleaner salesman or selling blenders because to them, it's just who is offering the best rebate for me to get a kickback from whatever it is I'm selling. So, take somebody with you or get advice from, now that's what this show is for. Get advice from people like us. We'll never tell you, go buy this gun. We'll give you some options and things to think about. And if you are getting, again, absolutes, if you're getting absolutes on buy this gun, you should probably think about, why someone is so hard charging and you need a Glock 19. Well, I don't like a Glock 19. I like a CZP-10 or I like a Smith & Wesson M&P. And guess what? I don't want a 9mm. I want 40. I mean, I don't care what you carry. Just find something that fits your hands, then your budget.
Right.
Right. Alex, I keep getting this bling in the background. Is do we have messages coming in on this, on the chat group or something? Because I have no idea what's happening.
Nope.
Okay. Well, there goes that.
You're hearing stuff, Matt.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe my chair might be squeaking or something. I don't know.
No. It's computer something. It doesn't matter. But I don't really have anything else, Alex. Do you?
Not really. I mean, I did, and I lost it.
Oh, sorry. Talking about computer sounds and noises.
Damn it, Matt. Oops, sorry, I swore.
Hey, we're trying to keep this as family friendly as possible. We are regular people, and sometimes things do slip. We probably won't be going back and trying to find.
We're not editing that.
Where someone said one swear word, but so sorry about that. If your kids are watching or listening.
I just introduced my my mom and dad to the comedian that talks about joining the Russian mob, the I Am Machine.
I don't know.
I've seen him. Oh, you're going to after this, but look it up. Just look up I Am the Machine.
Oh, kids, don't look this up.
it's
Talk to me about this later, Alex. Jeez. Alex, you're poisoning the minds of the youth today.
You were saying I'm human. I just want to reply, no, I am machine. So gotcha. No one gets the joke because they haven't seen the comedian, but it's not horrible at all. It's okay. Well, it's not okay. 18 plus maybe.
Oh my god, that's pretty bad.
It's funny. My 4-year-old runs around and goes, "I am machine." It's like you don't even know.
Oh boy.
Just don't do that.
Don't do that.
There's somebody right now laughing. I guarantee it.
One person knows what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Do we have anything coming up soon, Alex? What do we got going on?
We've got a few things we're working on at the moment. I was going to say, that's what I was going to say, is we are hopefully going to be doing a YouTube video about some of the guns on the market that are reliable. That's sort of in the works for this summer. We're going to go out to one of the local ranges and just sit at the counter and pull a bunch of them out of the case and go, okay, here we have the, Glock 19. Here we have the CZ P07 or the P09, or here we have the Smith & Wesson M&P or the Shield, and go over some of the features and different, aspects of those firearms to give you guys an idea of some of those. It'll be hard to do for the audio, but we'll definitely do a really good YouTube video for it. So keep an eye open for that. I'm not sure what it's going to be. We have a few people lined up for some guests here. We got to kind of get situations and schedules worked out to make that happen. And that's really about all of it for right now. Please keep an eye open for the webpage, and the iTunes will be up. We've got everything open. Everything is here. I'm just trying to finish up the edit on the first couple of shows. So it's all, I'm hoping by Monday will be completed, or at least have things going that direction. So the official URL for the website is edcoptions.com. So you can check that out here soon. It'll be up probably by the end of the day. It may not have anything on there, but it'll be up.
Cool.
Yeah. Working on getting some of the banners and graphics completed for that, and getting some stuff up there. And the like I said, keep an eye open for the actual podcast on Stitcher and Podcatcher apps. We're going to be working on getting them all submitted to those areas of expertise. So keep an eye open for that stuff, and keep an eye on the Facebook page. Give us some likes, give us some shares. One of the things we want to always point out at our shows is that, we're doing this for you guys. We're not doing it because me and Matt like talking to each other. We're trying to we're trying to get good information across. So if you think it's valuable to you, share it for people. Try to get other people involved. Sometimes it's just a matter of saying, hey, this is a cool podcast, check us out. And that way we can at least see that people are interested, and we get comments, and that fuels us to what are we going to do for the next podcast. If you guys go on our page and comment and say, hey, I really want to know about blank, we'll address it. We'll try to get it in the show and talk about it, and say, yeah, this is great, or here's some different information about that subject. Otherwise, we just come up with whatever we feel like talking about and ramble for 45 minutes. So you gotta give us some good feedback, and keep sharing our show and liking us on Facebook. And we are going to try to get some, I'm going to say this delicately, we're going to try to get some incentives, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, to get some more shares. So we might be doing some sort of giveaway here soon. So we were trying to work that all out with everyone, and get things situated with that. I'm not sure when. This is just sort of a teaser, and I'll leave it at that. But keep an eye open for some of the other stuff. We'll have another video from Holland's Tactical that I'm editing right now for some of the mill work that was done, and some cool stuff there, and some intros and things like that will be coming around. We'll have some neat stuff, and it's going to get better and better. So keep on coming back and checking us out.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Alex. Well, hey, thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join us today while we talked about how to find yourself a reputable instructor on the Everyday Carry Options podcast, where we make everyday carry attainable for the everyday citizen.